Picture this. You are sitting yee above traffic, hands on a thick steering wheel, engine rumbling with quiet authority. The cabin feels solid, expensive, powerful. In that moment, the vehicle is not just transportation. It feels like proof. Proof that you are capable, prepared, successful. And that feeling is exactly where the story begins. The central idea here is simple but uncomfortable. Many people choose high-end pickup trucks not because their daily lives demand serious towing, hauling, or off-road work, but because of the emotional experience the vehicle creates. The truck becomes a symbol before it is ever a tool. It represents strength, control, independence, and status. Those meanings are powerful, and they are carefully reinforced by years of advertising, cultural imagery, and social comparison. What makes this decision tricky is that the emotional reason is rarely admitted out loud. Instead, it gets translated into practical-sounding explanations. I might need to move something big one day. It is safer in bad weather. It is good to be prepared. These statements are not always false, but they often describe rare situations rather than everyday reality. The daily routine for many owners is commuting alone on paved roads, doing tasks that almost any reliable car could handle. So the vehicle shifts roles. It stops being just a machine that gets you from point A to point B. It becomes part of identity, a signal to others and to yourself about the kind of person you believe you are. The emotional reward is real, but it is also temporary, while the financial commitment that follows is long-lasting and very real. That emotional pull would be easier to justify if the numbers quietly stayed in the background, but they do not. The moment you step out of the feeling and into the price, the scale of the decision changes fast. Modern pickup trucks often cost far more than people instinctively realize. Many well-equipped models sit far above $60,000, and premium trims can approach $90,000. That means the vehicle in the driveway can equal or exceed an entire year of household income. When you look at it that way, it stops being a casual upgrade and starts looking like one of the biggest financial commitments in your life. The reason this does not feel shocking at first is because the price is rarely presented as a single number. Instead, attention is guided toward the monthly payment. The conversation becomes, can you handle this amount each month? Not, do you want to spend the equivalent of a small house down payment on transportation? Long loan terms make this possible. Stretching payments over 7 years can shrink the monthly figure enough to feel manageable, even though the total obligation remains massive. Psychologically, a monthly bill feels smaller and more ordinary than a giant lump sum, even if the math says they are the same commitment spread over time. The vehicle slowly shifts from luxury object to routine expense in the mind, but the reality is still there. A large share of future earnings has been promised to pay for something that will steadily lose value. When framed as a monthly number, it feels normal. When framed as years of income tied to one depreciating product, it feels very different. And even that large monthly payment is still only part of the picture. Once the truck is yours, the spending does not stop at the loan. This is where the gap between perception and reality widens even more. Ownership comes with a chain of ongoing costs that are easy to overlook during the excitement of the purchase. Fuel is the first one people feel. Bigger engines and heavier vehicles usually mean more trips to the pump. A small difference in fuel efficiency, repeated week after week, quietly turns into a noticeable monthly expense. Insurance follows the same pattern. Insuring a more expensive vehicle often means higher premiums, especially for coverage that protects against damage or loss. Then there are tires. Larger trucks use larger, more specialized tires, and replacing a full set can cost far more than many drivers expect. Maintenance also scales up. More fluids, larger parts, and heavier components can make routine services and repairs more expensive over time. Registration fees and vehicle-related taxes in some places are tied to value, so a higher-priced vehicle can mean higher recurring fees there as well. Individually, each of these costs may seem manageable, but when they are added together and viewed as a single monthly figure, the total can be surprising. the real cost of ownership becomes much larger than the loan payment alone. By focusing only on the visible bill, it is easy to underestimate how much money flows out every month just to keep the vehicle on the road. The truck is not one expense. It is an entire system of expenses working together. All of those ongoing costs sit on top of something even more powerful, the structure of the loan itself. At this point, the truck is no longer just a vehicle with expenses attached. It has become a long-term debt commitment. When you finance a large amount over many years, a significant portion of what you pay does not go toward the vehicle at all. It goes toward interest, the price of borrowing the money. That means you are not only paying for metal, technology, and leather. You're also paying for time, risk, and the lender's profit. This matters because the truck is a product that naturally loses value as it ages. While the balance on the loan slowly falls, the vehicle's market value can fall faster, especially in the early years. So you can find yourself in a situation where you owe more than the truck is worth. At that point, the vehicle is not just transportation. It is a financial obligation that follows you, shaping your monthly budget and limiting your flexibility. Long loan terms make this feel easier in the beginning because they lower the monthly payment, but they also stretch the obligation across a large part of your life. Year after year, the same bill arrives, regardless of how your circumstances change. The truck effectively becomes a fixed cost that you carry through job changes, life events, and unexpected challenges. Instead of being a tool that serves your life, the debt tied to it starts to influence your decisions, your risk tolerance, and how free you feel to make changes. Once you see the loan as a long-term weight, another layer comes into focus. The cost of the truck is not only the money that leaves your account, it is also the future that money could have built somewhere else. Every extra dollar tied up in payments, fuel, insurance, and interest is a dollar that cannot be saved, invested, or used to create options. This is where the idea of opportunity cost becomes powerful. It asks a simple question. If this money was not going into the truck, what could it be doing instead? Imagine the difference between a high monthly vehicle cost and a much lower one. That gap, repeated month after month, can be directed toward savings or long-term investments. Over time, steady contributions can grow through compounding. Growth on top of growth begins to work quietly in the background. Years later, the result can be a meaningful financial cushion. That cushion represents security, flexibility, and choices. It can support career changes, emergencies, travel, education, or simply peace of mind. When viewed this way, the truck is not just a purchase. It is a trade. On one side is a larger vehicle with certain features and a specific image. On the other side is financial momentum that could have been building over the same years. Depreciation shows only part of the loss, the decline in the vehicle's value. Opportunity cost shows the other part, the growth that never happened because the money was committed elsewhere. The real impact is not just what you spent, it is also the progress that was delayed or never started at all. When opportunity cost is understood, the effect stops being abstract and starts showing up in everyday life. A large vehicle payment does not sit quietly in one corner of the budget. It changes how the entire financial system around you behaves. Fixed expenses take priority. They must be paid month after month before anything else. That means savings, travel, and long-term goals often move to whatever space is left over, if any. This can affect major milestones. Lenders look at existing monthly obligations when evaluating applications for housing loans. A high car payment can reduce how much flexibility you have in those calculations. At the same time, building an emergency fund becomes slower. Instead of setting aside a meaningful amount each month, you might only be able to save a small remainder. That makes unexpected expenses feel more stressful because there is less buffer between normal life and financial strain. The impact is not only numerical, it influences choices and comfort levels. When a large portion of income is already committed, taking time off, changing jobs, or pursuing new opportunities can feel riskier. Even social plans and travel may be filtered through the question of what is affordable after the bills are covered. The vehicle payment quietly competes with many other priorities, not just money goals, but experiences and relationships. Over time, this can create a sense of tightness in the budget, where one decision made years earlier continues to shape daily options. What looked like a single lifestyle upgrade can ripple outward, influencing stability, flexibility, and the range of choices available in the future. As these financial pressures emirattle into everyday life, another pattern begins to appear on the emotional side. The excitement that once justified the purchase slowly fades. At the beginning, every drive can feel special. The higher seating position, the quiet cabin, the sense of presence on the road, all create a noticeable boost. There is pride, novelty, and a feeling of having upgraded your life. But human psychology has a habit of adjusting. What once felt exceptional gradually becomes normal. This process is often described as adaptation. When something new enters your life, your mind responds strongly at first. Over time, that response softens as the experience becomes routine. The truck that once felt impressive turns into just your vehicle. The features that seemed luxurious blend into the background of daily habits. You still appreciate them, but they no longer deliver the same emotional lift. The key contrast is that while feelings adapt, the financial structure does not. The payment schedule continues on the same timeline, with the same amounts due each month. The budget impact remains steady, even as the thrill declines. That creates an imbalance. A short period of heightened satisfaction is exchanged for a long period of fixed obligation. Seen this way, the purchase is influenced by a temporary emotional state, but its consequences play out over years. The mind moves on faster than the math. What remains is a normal driving experience attached to a commitment that continues shaping your finances long after the original excitement has become part of the background of everyday life. When the emotional boost fades, but the payment stays, it raises a deeper question. Why did the feeling matter so much in the first place? Part of the answer lies in how vehicles are presented in culture. Pickup trucks are often connected with images of toughness, capability, and independence. Commercials and media frequently show them in dramatic landscapes, pulling heavy loads, or moving confidently through challenging terrain. Over time, those images can shape what the vehicle represents, not just what it does. The connection becomes symbolic. Owning the truck can start to feel like owning a piece of that identity. It suggests readiness, strength, and self-reliance, even if daily life mostly involves city streets and routine errands. The vehicle turns into a signal, something that communicates a message to others and reinforces a story you tell yourself. In that sense, it works less like a tool and more like a costume, expressing a lifestyle that may only occasionally match reality. From a business perspective, this is effective. Products that carry emotional and identity meaning often feel more important than their practical function alone. But for the individual, this can blur the line between who you are and what you own. Self-worth and capability become tied to objects that require ongoing financial commitment. The result is not just a spending choice, but a cultural pattern. Material goods are used to express personal traits that actually come from skills, habits, and character. When identity is outsourced to expensive products, the financial cost is clear. But there is also a subtle shift in how people measure themselves and their success over time. Once identity becomes part of the equation, the explanations people give for the purchase start to sound very practical on the surface. But when you look closer, many of these reasons are tied more to emotion than to daily reality. One common defense is that the vehicle holds its value well. It is true that some larger vehicles can retain a higher percentage of their original price compared to smaller cars. However, percentage can hide the bigger picture. If the starting price is much higher, the total dollar amount lost over time can still be greater, even with slower depreciation. Another frequent argument is the idea of possible future needs. Maybe there will be a big move, a trailer to tow, or a project that requires extra capacity. Preparing for rare scenarios can feel responsible, but we do not usually make other major purchases based on events that might happen once or twice. Most of daily life is predictable, and transportation needs often follow that pattern. Buying for the exception rather than the rule can turn into an expensive form of insurance. These explanations sound logical, which makes them easy to repeat and believe. But they can also act as a cover story for the original emotional pull, the desire to feel capable, prepared, or impressive. Recognizing this does not mean the purchase is wrong in every case. It simply invites honesty. When you understand the true motivation, you can weigh the emotional benefit against the financial cost more clearly, instead of assuming the decision is purely practical. When you put all of this together, a different picture of success starts to appear. If identity, emotion, and habit can pull you toward the larger and more expensive option, there is also another path that rarely looks impressive from the outside. Choosing a modest, reliable vehicle does not create the same instant emotional surge. It does not turn heads or signal a dramatic lifestyle, but financially, it changes the direction of your life in quiet and powerful ways. Lower monthly costs mean more breathing room. That room can become savings, investments, or simply a buffer that makes everyday life less stressful. With fewer fixed obligations, unexpected expenses feel less threatening. Career decisions can be made with more confidence because your survival does not depend on maintaining a high level of income just to cover bills. Flexibility increases, options expand. The absence of pressure becomes its own form of comfort. This shift also separates identity from possessions. Instead of expressing capability through a vehicle, you build it through skills, habits, and choices. Experiences, relationships, and long-term goals begin to take priority over visible consumption. Over time, this can lead to a deeper sense of stability and control, even if it looks ordinary from the outside. In the end, the contrast is simple. One path emphasizes image and comes with long-term financial weight. The other may look less exciting at first, but it gradually builds resilience, freedom, and peace of mind. Real progress, is not always loud. Sometimes it is the quiet decision that leaves you with more choices tomorrow than you have today.